Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie creator interview. It's your Cape Crusader Cody, and we are keeping it geekly with our good friend, Marshulartz. We're here to break down Lumento and Brave Soul and everything in between. And lighting up the sky, here's my good friend, Marshall. How are you doing, man? Welcome to the stream.
Hey, thanks for having me. I am doing well today on this cold November, close to December day.
Hey, man, we're from the same state. You can't say it's too cold, though, because last week it was freezing.
Yeah, it was, man. It's actually been warm these last few days, so I can't even be mad.
Yeah, absolutely. So always excited to give some Ohio love out there. Anytime we can get any of our any of our good friends from Ohio on the show, it's always a good day. But before we get too far into it, man, give us a little bit about who you are and how you got into creating manga.
Yeah, obviously I go by Marshulartz online, but I am from Ohio, much like yourself, you already know, but I got started in creating manga back in 3rd grade when really me and my friend were so caught up about Digimon and Yu-Gi-Oh! They were hype at the time, and I'm terrible at writing. So when we would work together on creating like these Digimon like comics, I would do all the drawings. So my friend would write like almost, I would say, a good 2/3 of the page, and he would save the bottom for me, and I would draw and create like our own Digimon. And we had like 36 issues of like these Digimon comics, and this is before we knew what manga was, but we would just create like these Digimon comics and things like that. We would also create Yu-Gi-Oh cards, like our own custom Yu-Gi-Oh cards. So we would take like construction paper, cut it out, draw the whole thing, give a description. I don't remember. I wish I could find them and like show them, but I don't remember where they are. And to that light, when I found out what manga was, it was from watching like 4Kids. I think in like 2003, Viz started bringing over like manga and anime here a lot more. And I ended up finding Shonen Jump magazine, and it was just bizarre to kind of read it because it went right to left instead of left to right. And when I did read it, I just was like, oh, okay, they just make this book backwards. It's whatever. Coming to find out, that was like the reading format over in Japan. And I fell in love with it. And that's mainly what I read. So while other people were reading like the Flash comics or the Batman or Superman, I was reading One Piece, Shaman King, Naruto, Bleach, all the things in between. So with my start in comics or manga, that's how it got started pretty much. It was like that.
So did you read a couple of manga backwards until you figured out like, hey, this is actually how it's supposed to be read?
Yeah, it actually took till I got my single issue of like One Piece. I ended up getting my single issue of One Piece, and then I got like a couple more manga, and I was like, oh, this is literally how they are in like the single book form, not just the Shonen Jump. So literally it took till I got my very first manga to be like, maybe this is how they are.
So, you know, why is that it's in that format? I don't think I've ever asked that question out of anyone who's like ever been like a serious like reader and enthusiast, you know, why is it like a different reading format?
So that's just how the style has always been. They usually write top to bottom, right to left for their format of reading. So that's just how they kind of storytell, and that's literally how they do things. Just like here in America, we go left to right, and we pretty much write top to bottom, left to right. It's just how it's always been. I don't remember the history per se on that, but I do know when I was looking it up, if I was like, I wanted to figure out like, okay, is that how they also read other things, or is it just manga? Come to find out, it's how they do a majority of things. They don't have everything top to bottom, right to left, but they do have some left to right format stuff, but it's very rare to see over in Japan.
So after like the Digimon, Yu-Gi-Oh, kind of take on things, where did you see yourself next diving into creating manga?
At that point, it was a off and on thing for me because I really had fallen in love with film and storytelling and working with people. So I did that for a while. So manga was like at an off and on point for me. And I didn't take it seriously until a couple years ago because I wasn't really sure if manga was what I wanted to do. And you know how they always say like, hey, don't regret not trying something. So I went off into film land for a long time. And I came back to manga when I realized it literally COVID happened. And then everybody, changed and started doing the things they wanted to do more. So with the film industry shut down, I wanted to kind of give manga a try again. And I've always had a passion drawing. It's something about like when I draw versus if I was holding a camera or if I was making music or anything like that. Drawing lit a fire in me that just nothing else did. And it didn't matter if I was good or not. It was just fun to do, So, yeah.
So you didn't like writing back then. Did anything change now? Like, are you still like having someone do the writing for you, or are you kind of taking that by yourself now?
So I still do the writing, and when I do the writing, I have a couple people check it out. So I have a good friend of mine that I'm actually roommates with. I have my girlfriend also read over and proofread and just make sure things make sense. So that way, when I start drawing it, I actually am like, okay, cool. This all makes sense to other people. Now I know I can convey things properly. I bulletin point things. I don't write like full scripts. I know there are some people who write full scripts. I don't like doing that unless it's for like something else. But if I'm doing a sequential story like this, I like to bulletin point things because I feel like there's a few bulletin points that can go into a panel, or there's like maybe 6 to 10 bulletin points that can go into a page. So if I bulletin point things, it leaves it free and loose enough for me to change anything in the story as I go. So yeah, writing is still a tough thing for me, and it's something I'm still learning.
Yeah.
And I feel like everyone is kind of learning either writing or drawing, but writing is my one thing I'm getting better at. So yeah.
So was Brave Soul kind of your first venture into, like, I guess your first like quote unquote like legitimate manga, like your first like publication?
Yes. So the way I believe is everyone has their baby that they want to work on. They have that big story they've been working on for years and years and years. But and that's something I wanted to do. And my girlfriend was hounding me plenty of times, like, hey, get this story out. I know you've been working on it. I'm like, yeah, I have. And I remember working on it, not Brave Soul, but another story. I remember working on that story and being like, I don't have quite enough experience to do this yet. I don't have the understanding of making a sequential story legitly and really trying to tap into what it means to create a manga, not just drawing a face frontward or learning how to draw hands or feet. It's like really being able to storytell with gestures, facial expressions, paneling and just word bubbles and how someone's talking. So, excuse me, I wanted to really learn how to do that. And so I made Brave Soul for that exact reason. It said, hey, Brave Soul is going to be my story that I really work on drawing the characters. I really work on their facial expressions. I learned how to make a sequential story. So I've really built this story up for only a year.
Okay.
Last year is when I started building the story up from the ground up.
But you already have put some work in. I think right now would be like a perfect segue. You have a bunch of some behind the scene pages for us to take a look at and kind of go through with you.
Yes.
So, I mean, even though it's only been a year, like, wow, look at all that.
Yeah, it's 96 pages, the first chapter. So I'm trugging along. I'm only on page 43, 42. I'm in this area. And yeah, so it's like there's a bunch of different things. This is one of the ones that I think a lot of people would like. I like doing dual spread pages. I think those are super fun, and I think that being able to showcase like different sides of things is really interesting. Like characters, like I said, characters' emotions and expressions is just really funny. Because in this scene, particularly, what's going on is William just tripped. He bit his tongue, and he's like, "Ah, crap! I bit my tongue." And he's holding his mouth, and he hears a click, and that's when we see like he fumbled himself right in the middle of like some poor sap getting robbed.
Oh, shit.
So he's like, crap. And like he's like, we've seen our faces. So yeah, this is.
Don't use my name. I love that. So give us a little bit about some of the protagonists as well. It seems like we have William, but I seen the cover. It looked like there was 3 people.
Yeah. So the image I had sent over, shows William Brave, Mia Fenriel, and Geo Prism, ironically. And those 3 are like a trio of friends. William is this main character who just wants to be strong, but not in a typical way. I kind of play on that trope and take it in a different direction to where it makes him a little bit more selfish.
Mm-hmm.
than normal. You know, some people are like, oh, I want to be strong and protect my friends and family, but he's like, I want to be strong and other people can be a hindrance. And so it
Yeah.
kind of plays on that, like, oh, okay, so is he an ally of justice, or is he kind of just this mean spirited person? And I say we'll have to find out as you read at least the first chapter. But yeah, so I'm gonna go to a page with all three of them on it. Let me actually go
So
back
with
up.
this being like 90 plus pages, is your next chapter going to be just as long, or is this kind of like a nice, like just longer introduction chapter?
So I am a firm believer. I am a firm believer that your first chapter in manga, at least, should always be longer than any other chapter you have, unless it's like a big event in the story.
Mm-hmm.
So the first chapter is going to be 96 pages because that was just the length it came out to. Every chapter after this is going to be the traditional 19 to 21 pages that manga usually carry. And the reason why I have such a structure is because I want to really pay tribute to the things that I grew up reading.
Mm-hmm.
And with a lot of manga I've read both currently and when I was growing up, Shaman King, I almost said My Hero Academia, Shaman King, Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, the first chapters were like 60, 80 pages long just to have its own self-contained story. And then after that, you know, you would go through the different struggles, traumas, problems caused by other people, things that characters need to solve. And they would only be like the 19, 21 pages. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that's perfect. So that's more or less what I want to do. But this is Mia Fenrir and Geo Prism, but I forgot to change it to Geo Lofton. So yeah.
No, I am loving these designs a lot. So what is going on in this universe? You know, what type of manga are we going to be in for?
So the manga itself is going to be since this is going to be my very first one, I wanted to keep it smaller and I wanted to do something that was self-contained. So this one is going to be a tournament-based one. There's going to be something called the Crimson Tournament where Lucifer himself allows a certain amount of demons from hell to come out and participate, or, you know, take over these humans' bodies, or not really take them over. I'll say collaborate with humans in order to fight in this tournament, both on the surface of Earth and in hell at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So the story is going to be pretty much just a tournament based manga, kind of like Yu Yu Hakusho back in the day, like how people love the tournament arc of Yu Yu Hakusho, or in the beginning of My Hero Academia, people love the tournament arc for that. And that's pretty much what I'm going for with this whole story is how can I take an ensemble of characters in different places with different things, give them these powers, see if they're going to be good or bad, and then see their outcome. And for William, it's kind of going to be a journey of how he changes and becomes, you know, he wants to be strong. So what happens if you give someone strength right at the beginning? How do they change?
So how's it been like working on a project of this magnitude? A lot of people, you know, a lot of creators when they first start out like to go for, you know, just a few pages, you know, just a one shot here, or you know 4 pages here. You're hitting it right out the park with 90. Like, you know, does it feel overwhelming at all?
Yeah, I'd say at times, man, it definitely feels overwhelming. You definitely get there's definitely those highs and lows, or those peaks and valleys,
Mm-hmm.
as most artists will say, like, hey, you know, I feel like I'm doing too much. I feel like I'm doing too little. As of right now, I think in the beginning, I want to say through the first like 10 pages, it felt like a lot. But once you start getting down into like the 30s and 40s, you start realizing like, oh, hey, I'm starting to see the end goal here. Like I'm starting to really feel it. And I'll say I probably do a couple pages a night. I don't think that for me it's a lot, because I understand that in different societies, you know, we want to do a certain amount of work. So like in
Mm-hmm.
Japan, they can bust out like a 20-page chapter in a week. Of course, the working conditions are different. Here in America, you know, there are people who say, hey, you know, my comic, I only want to do 12 pages or 10 pages.
Yeah.
I wanted to do as many pages as I felt I needed for my first chapter, because I want it to be its own self-contained story.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it can be overwhelming at times where I just have to sit back and be like, oh man, whew, okay, let me go play the video game or something,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
look at something different. But other than that, it's not too bad. I don't have a problem with it.
So what's the creative process look like for you? I know you said writing's not your strength. So do you do the the drawing first and then like try to figure out the dialogue afterwards?
So the way it normally goes, like I said, is I write the bulletin points out, and when I write out the bulletin points, I usually will write out, like, let's say I'll write out the first 2 chapters, and I'll start a little bit of the third maybe the next day or so, but I'll always go back and reread the first 2 excuse me. I'll always go back and reread the first 2 chapters of the bulletin points I have, just to make sure I'm making a cohesive story.
Mhm.
After I write the bulletin points out, the drawing process, sketching particularly, super easy. Don't have any problems with that. I'm usually able to come up with some really good angles, really good things, and it's fairly simple in that aspect. I write it out first and I draw it out, and then I go in order. I know there's people who do go out of order because they want to draw other things that are more interesting.
Mhm.
But for me, yeah, the process is pretty simple. Like I'll go back to the page 4, the page I was on. So when I end up creating things, I usually will break things down, and like these guys are in front. And with the writing process, with the drawing process, I'll usually start with the rough draft underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
Click
Oh,
on
that
this
is really
off
cool.
real
I
quick.
appreciate you giving us like this like deeper look at it too. It's nice to see like all these different like layers and like what all goes into it.
Yeah, and this is kind of my thing that I do. So I have different stages that I like to do, and you'll see like the line art for this is like super different than the rough draft for this is super different than what I have for the actual line art.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, this is pretty much my process. I pretty much will write not full sentences. I do bulletin points because that's all my brain can handle. And then I do the rough draft, and then I'll do the line work, but I'll rough draft the entire 92, 96 pages out first, and then I'll go back and do the finalized line work over it.
Shoo, that is.
Yeah.
So, this isn't the only thing that you're working on, though, right? You have a whole other platform that's coming out that this is going to be on. Like, this is going to, this platform is going to be hosting Brave. So give us a little bit about that as well.
So, I'm gonna stop screen sharing.
Yeah.
So with that, the other platform is Lumbento. It is a brand that I created back in April of this year, where I wanted to do publication work and have other people who wanted to create manga like myself on that platform.
Mm-hmm.
And Lumbento pretty much was started off as an idea. It's a small manga publishing company that, I really wanted people to be able to publish manga their way without having any restrictions of going to any other place that was like, hey, you can't make your story go right to left. You can't do vertical style. You can't do all these different things. And I slowly went away from that idea and said, let me just focus on building my people before I do that. So Lumbento's, the website is going to be on hold for at least 2023 and most of 2024 until I'm able to get the site going the way I want to. But Lumbento itself, the brand, is still going to be there to house my work and the work of my 2 other people on the team. So
That's
we have
awesome.
3 manga coming out this year. Yeah, dude, it's been phenomenal. It's been a lot of work. It's been a lot of meetings. But it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Can you give us anything on the other 2 that are coming out, or is that still behind the wraps?
It's still kind of behind the wraps, but the funny thing about it is me and my buddy Perry. So I'm from the States. One person is from the Philippines. The other person is from Spain. So we have different outviews and different takes on how our manga is going to be. But it's funny because I'm doing something with demons. The other person is doing something with demons and angels, and the other person is doing like an isekai manga. And
okay. What's isekai? Excuse me.
Isekai, no, you're okay. Isekai is kind of going into another world. So those are very popular right now with manga. I've been reincarnated as a slime, or other things like that. So yeah, he's doing an isekai manga, and that's actually pretty funny because it's an inverted isekai. But that's all I'll say about that. But yeah.
So how does it feel to go from, creating, the Digimon manga and the Yu-Gi-Oh trading cards to actually having your own brand coming out to kind of be spearheading, two other projects as well? Like, that has to be such a surreal feeling.
It is. It's a lot in the aspect of the inner child in me is like, oh my gosh, we can do this. Like, we can actually take all this on. It's like, yeah, man. And not just that, we're going to do even more as time goes on. It's been a crazy feeling because sometimes it doesn't even feel real.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I'm working on my personal manga, or I'm talking to the other two about, hey, we're gonna create these ads or these things to further the launch and your launch and whatever date, or I'm working on Lumbento and being like, how can I make this brand more of a manga brand? And it's it's surreal. It's a crazy feeling. I never thought when I was doing film that I would get to this point. I always knew it was something I wanted to do, but I never thought that I would get to creating this, like, oh, let's create this company. Let's start creating
Mm-hmm.
your manga. Let's sit down and take this like extremely serious. Let's really work on this. Um, but the moment it happened, I just was like, cool. I'm gonna jump in, dive in, go swimming, dunk my head underwater, see what's there, and continue going. So
Because the only way to know if it's going to work is, see if you can swim, right? Either you jump in, you sink, or swim.
yes, and that's pretty much it, man. Like I wasn't sure what it was gonna hold me, but everything's been great so far. We've had our hiccups, but like any startup, but everything's been great so far, and I couldn't ask for better people to be on the team with me. And yeah, Limbento is a great place to house my stuff, my team stuff, because I really do care about the process of creating what I believe to be as my version of manga, what I grew up reading and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the other two agree wholeheartedly with me, and that's all it is like, yeah, if you agree with what I'm doing and the vision that I have, and you have similar visions, please come see me. Let's talk. We'll have a good time.
No, that is so awesome. Marshall, I appreciate you coming on here, breaking down everything, Brave Soul, Lumento, all that, dude. It's been such an awesome chat. Before we wrap things up completely, though, I always love asking guests for a little bit of advice for anyone who might be new watching. So with that being said, for anyone who might be out there struggling with either the script or the art or anything in between, what type of advice would you offer them to help them get motivated, just to get going?
Oh, this is perfect. So if you are new to creating manga, or you're doing comics, or any of the in between, the one thing I would definitely say is learn how you want to write. When you learn how you want to write, it will be easier to learn how you want to draw. There's a lot of people who believe that you have to write or draw a certain way. That is not the truth. How you want, or that is not the only way.
Mm-hmm.
How you should write is, I always say, write in bulletin points, keep things very simplistic and minimalistic. And then the same with drawing or storyboarding. Keep it very simplistic. Do stick figures if you have to. I call them bubble people, but create bubble people if you have to, which are just people who look like boxes or anything like that. You might draw a circle for the head, and then a square for the body, and then an oval for an arm. So stay very simplistic, and definitely read and practice the same art from your favorite creators,
Mm-hmm.
because that's only going to make you better. You're only going to be able to break down more. And yeah, it's pretty much my advice.
No, that's awesome, and I think that is some very sound advice as well. Marshall, once again, thank you for swinging by. When can everyone expect this chapter to drop? Like, do you have an expected idea of when it's going to be going live?
Yeah, so with this chapter, it's going to be going live January 5th of next year, and then March we're gonna release another manga under the brand, and yeah, we're gonna go from there. So this Brave Soul is going to be releasing January 5th of 2023, and yeah, be on the lookout for that. I'm already halfway through it. I've already created some promo. And,
Let's go, dude. Let's go. Congratulations. Everyone watching, be sure to check them out. Where can people find you real quick before we go?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter. That's where I'm most active. I love retweeting, love engaging with people on spaces that I create. You can find me on Instagram, all under Marshulartz, like my handle says. And then I also have a YouTube channel where I do talk about storytelling, how you can storytell, drawing tips. I mainly go over Clip Studio Paint, and I do give breakdowns on other things. So yeah, you can find me on any of those platforms under the moniker Marshulartz. Yeah.
No, that is so awesome, man. And I appreciate you coming on here and giving us that behind the scene look with like all the different layering and like what kind of just went into it, like the script, the sketching, all the way up to the lines. That was such an awesome experience, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone watching, be sure to check them out. Give them a follow, and most importantly, stay up to date. January 5th is right around the corner. Dude, that's so close, man. Excited for you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Let's go. Everyone watching, I hope you all have a fantastic Saturday, but most importantly, guys, keep it geekly.